So today we're diving into a huge paradox in one of the world's most exciting markets. You see, India's aviation sector is absolutely booming with passengers. But for the airlines themselves, well, it's often a story of grounded dreams. How can so many people flying lead to so much failure? Let's get into it. I want you to look at this number, 11. Now, it might not seem like much at first glance, but in an industry that's supposed to be growing like crazy, this number is a massive warning sign. So what does it actually represent? That's right, 11 airlines have gone out of business in India in just the last several years. That is a staggering failure rate, and it tells you there's some serious turbulence up there. So what on earth is going on?
And that really brings us to the core question here. How can a market with so much potential also be, well, an airline graveyard? The government actually has a few things to say about this. Okay, so according to India's Ministry of Civil Aviation, the number one culprit is just severe financial stress. But it's also a mix of other things, not having enough planes to fly, and even internal company problems. But here's the key thing. Airlines are operating in a deregulated market. That means the government will help out with policy, but it's not going to step in with bailouts or to control prices. The airlines, they really have to fly on their own.
But while that business reality is incredibly harsh, it's happening at the exact same time as this really powerful and ambitious national vision, a dream to open up the skies for literally everyone.
And this quote from Prime Minister Narendra Modi just perfectly captures the spirit behind a massive government plan. See, it's not just about business, it's about social change, it's about connecting the whole country. The goal is to make flying a real possibility for the average citizen.
And this slogan, it's brilliant. Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, which means let the common citizen of the country fly. It paints this perfect picture of the dream, a journey from Hawai Chappal, that's slippers, to the Hawai Jahaj, the aeroplane. The vision is so clear. But how do you actually make that affordable?
Now this is where it gets really interesting. Just look at the simple math here. Under the government's UDAN scheme, the goal is to make flying literally cheaper than taking a taxi, at an average of just 5 rupees per kilometer. I mean, that completely changes the game for how you think about traveling long distances. So, to make this vision a reality across the entire country, the government just approved a huge overhaul of the scheme. You can think of it as UDAN 2.0, and it's backed by a pretty staggering amount of money, 28,840 crore rupees. Just to put that into perspective for you, that's over 3.4 billion US dollars. It's a massive number. So where is all that cash going? All right, let's break it down. As you can see, the biggest slice of the pie, over 12,000 crore, is for building out airports. But look at that second biggest piece, over 10,000 crore for something called viability gap funding. Now that's basically direct financial support to airlines to keep these new regional routes, which aren't profitable on their own, flying. The rest of the money goes to building helipads and helping run the airports. So the crucial takeaway here is that this isn't just about cheap tickets. It's a huge strategy with a lot of moving parts. It's about building the actual infrastructure. We're talking 100 new airports, 200 helipads, while also giving airlines the financial life support to make these new routes work, all with the bigger goal of transforming smaller cities and remote areas. It is an incredibly ambitious plan. But like we saw right at the beginning, the Indian aviation market is a tough place to be. A multi-billion-dollar investment? Well, that doesn't guarantee a smooth flight. There are some serious headwinds.
Yeah, Indian airlines are constantly fighting things they just can't control. Jet fuel prices are all over the place and make up nearly half their costs. Then you've got their biggest expense, leasing the planes themselves, which is usually done in US dollars. That creates huge currency risk. And that's all on top of global supply chain problems, a pilot shortage, and for some of the state-run airlines, massive, massive debt. And when you add all those challenges together, it leads us to the single biggest risk of this whole UDAN scheme. The danger isn't that the planes won't fly. The danger is that they will only fly as long as the government is paying them to, creating a whole network of routes that are totally dependent on subsidies to exist.
And this is really the fundamental economic question at the very heart of the program. Can government money kickstart a market that can eventually stand on its own 2 feet, or do you risk creating a permanent dependency? So when you put it all together, you're left with 2 very, very different ways of looking at this whole thing. Is it a visionary flight plan for the future of the country, or is it just a really, really costly gamble?
I mean, on the one hand, the vision is incredible. You're connecting the country, you're boosting small-town economies, and you're making travel accessible for millions. It's basically a nation-building project. But on the other hand, the risks are just as real. You could create this endless cycle of subsidies, you might ignore the fundamental problems that airlines are facing, and you could run into huge delays, all while putting even more financial strain on the very airlines that are supposed to make it all happen.
And that really brings us to our final thought here. Building 100 new airports is a clear, tangible thing you can point to and call a success. But maybe the real test isn't about the concrete and steel. Maybe it's about whether this massive investment can create a network of flights that can one day thrive all on its own, long after the government money has gone. And that is the ultimate question.
Thanks for watching.